Something terrible is happening to a once great organization. And if things don't change, it could self destruct. And I'd hate to see that happen. Remember when the NAACP was the most important civil rights organization in America? Now, that wasn't such a very long time ago. So it makes what they've become so much sadder to see. They were once so important that you could make the case that without them, there would have been no civil rights movement in America. Now, they're fighting for relevance, as other, far more radical groups have become very powerful. Maybe that's why they've called for a travel ban to Florida. Did they think this foolish travel ban would make people remember them? Maybe being overlooked for all these years was too hard for their leaders to take. Maybe they especially wanted to reach people with money who might donate some of it. Unfortunately for the NAACP, that sound you're not hearing is a pen writing a check. It's the sound of laughter, the sound of black people laughing, and brown people, and white people too, and a lot of colors in between. They're laughing as hundreds of people of all races move to Florida every day. They're laughing as people of all races leave liberal states like New York and California and Massachusetts every day. And they're moving to live in states like Florida and Texas. They're laughing because Leon Russell, who's the chairman of the NAACP Board of Directors, lives in Tampa, Florida. And apparently, he has no plans to move, even though his group is telling people to stay away from his home state. Mr. Russell has somehow been able to keep a straight face as he justifies living in a state that the NAACP says is unfriendly to black people and to LGBTQIA plus individuals too. He says people should boycott Florida. Boycott Florida, Mr. Russell? Until when? Until they become more like New York and California and Massachusetts? Now, some black business leaders in Florida are speaking up, and they're telling the NAACP to mind their own business because they're making money, and some of their customers are white, and turning off customers is bad for business. In fact, calling white people racist all the time is not good for much of anything, especially when it isn't true. It only polarizes people and shuts down communication, and that never ends well for any society. Why do they keep doing it? Why do so many people want to stoke anger and fear among Americans of all races? How can this do anybody any good? Why are so many Democrats angry at black presidential candidate Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina? Because he's calling for unity among races. His message is one that should make him a hero, but instead there's rage from the left, simply because he wants people of all races to love each other and work together. The sad fact is that too many people benefit from dividing us because it gives them power, and that's all they really care about. They feed on anger and resentment, and they scour the news for any story that will promote their hateful narrative and divide people even more. To what end? Their message tells people that the system will never work for them, so don't even try. Their message is one that promotes despair and all too often ends in violence. States like Florida prove that the American dream is alive and well for people of all races and genders. And some people, they just don't like that. Now, Massachusetts and California and New York could be just like Florida, but voters there keep electing elitist leaders who reject freedom and opportunity, favoring failure and political correctness instead. I wish the NAACP would add their voice to the campaign to bring people together. That was always their message, and it worked. We need that voice back, the voice that calls for people to work together, to talk about their differences, and act to make things better. They can call for all the travel bans they want, and no one will pay any attention. And that's a good thing. People are still going to leave the so-called enlightened states to move to places where nobody cares about race and gender and where hard work is rewarded and liberals will leave them alone. Places where they'll not be lectured every day about what and how they should think and believe, and where they will not have radical ideologies rammed down their throats. Thank goodness our political system allows states to have the freedom to experiment and to be different from each other. It's too bad states that fail their residents in so many ways, like Massachusetts and New York and California, refuse to copy successful states like Florida. Leaders of the NAACP should be praising states like Florida, where being colorblind is considered a good thing. The NAACP should be encouraging other states to be the same way. It has never been their policy to divide people. They've always stood for bringing people together. This is no time to change a policy that has done so much good for so many people in our country.